Whatevers. If you got questions, I got answers. Feel free to ask at any time.
I might start with a light one. What's
Okay.
the software you use for screenshotting and stuff?
Share X. That's it.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, I use Share X, and I changed a couple settings to make it so that's easy to grab certain types of information. Like I changed some of the hotkeys. I changed the location in which where it's saved. What else? Yeah, I changed a lot in it. Well, no, let me rephrase that. I changed a good amount. But anyway, yeah, that's the software. Any other questions?
Actually, I had a question regarding thumbnailing and working with clients. I might be jumping the gun there with the clients, but
No, it's all good. Any questions?
cool. I was thinking, like, regarding thumbnails, in how many, or maybe not how many is the right question, but at what level should one send thumbnails to clients so they don't look underdone or overworked?
So like how much of the quality of the thumbnails should be is what were you getting at? Or like how many?
Yeah, considering like if it's about designing characters, then I'm guessing what's a good amount of number of thumbnails, and also I guess that you're the best person to ask about uh, the level of render, so to speak.
Yeah, sure.
Not to spend too much time on it, but also not being too sketchy, I guess.
Yeah. So the answer to this question, I usually tell people is, it all depends. And a good way of thinking about this, in terms of why it all depends, is because some people may need more information than others. I always like to just do more information. So the clearer, the better. This is why I keep pushing clarity onto you guys, you know? Because I think a lot of times people are like, how sketchy or how like refined. Like, I think that question should just always be aim for clarity. Okay. And know who you're working with.
Yeah.
Right. Because sometimes you might be working with some clients who are like really like an artists, like they totally understand kind of what you're doing, and they don't need to kind of give you like hold your hand all the way through. Do you understand?
Yeah.
They can just kind of like uh oh man, sorry. They can just kind of like look at your stuff and be like, oh, that's great, like I see where you're going, I approve of this message, you know. And other clients, they're gonna just like, what is this? Yeah, and they have no idea what you gave them. Like I've worked with an art director once who was really great. Like I would show him something and he'd be like, awesome, and this is how we can do it, and this is what you should do, let's improve this, let's improve that, and he was very clear, very precise, and his criticism is really great, you know and he was an artist himself, so he had like a lot of artistic ability. So it was really easy for him to explain to me what he wanted, you know?
Yeah.
And then I worked for a company once, like it was Disney, and they just kept on saying, make it more creepy, make it more creepy. And I was like, okay. And I just kept on trying to make whatever the hell they wanted more creepy. And it just never worked out. And then I was like, can you just share me a reference image of what you guys mean by creepy? You know, because I'm like clearly not getting it. And they did. And I was just like, oh, okay. That's, wait, hold on. Don't display dialog. Open for add in local language. Hold on. Looks like it's working. Give me a minute. Reverting stuff as we speak. Because I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with source control.
No.
But it's all right. Well, looks like it worked.
Like Git?
Yeah. So I was doing some stuff yesterday, and I think I just messed everything up. But yeah, it was just all I messed up everything because whenever you're organizing files in Unreal Engine, and then like you try to do it, it's like, what'd you try to do, bro? And it gets all jank. I should have known too, because I was like, wait a minute, I should be doing this in a different way, but I didn't. But anyway, yeah. So I asked, like what they meant by creepy, and then they were just like, oh yeah, make it more creepy. And then I asked them for an image, and they just showed me a picture of like an old man, like on a bench. And I was like, oh, you mean like pedophile creepy? Yeah. Because I was like, kept on drawing like monsters and stuff, and those were very clear, and those were very like well drawn. You should know, because like that's the kind of stuff that I do, right?
Yeah.
And what ended up happening is I just gave him a rough sketch of like an old man version of what I was doing, not a completed like fully rendered one, right? Like I was doing before. And they're like, perfect. This is the right balance of creepy that we were looking for. You did it, Jonesy. And so like this question that people usually ask, it's just out of naiveness, like you just don't know, right? In most cases, like what you think clients want. And I'm just really trying to prepare you that you're never going to get a company, a client that they all like have some sort of like it's lateral, right? It's flat, like where everybody gives notes and feedback the same way across the board. You know what I mean? Like it's just not that way. And I think you understand that, right? And so the things that I usually tell people though is that's why you should just have a handle on your workflow. That's the only thing you really can control. And the thing that I found works the best in most situations is the clarity thing, like that clear ideation. And sometimes the only way to do that is like a fully rendered drawing, like there is no questions asked, like you're giving them a photorealistic looking render, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how are they not going to understand it when they're looking at it? And sometimes you can give them something pretty loosey goosey, like this image, and they're just like, I see where this is going, you know? And they can
Yeah,
move
I get
from
it.
there. But yeah, this idea of having it all figured out. In fact, at the studio that I've worked for a couple times, like that's something that I was talking to the art director about because he was really having challenges, and I told him like, I don't think you're doing a good job as an art director, you know. And he's a good friend of mine, so he was able to like listen to his feedback pretty well. You know what I mean? I was like, because you're just keep living in abstraction. Like your feedback is an abstraction, your criticism is an abstraction. You know, you're trying to avoid hurting people's feelings. You know, in the context of a class, I don't hurt feelings, right? I just try to like listen to you guys and give you guys helpful advice, right? But
Yeah.
in a work environment, like where I've been art directors, I'm not this way. I'm way more assertive, way more matter of fact, because it's a different environment. We're being paid for this, you know. I was having some debate with some of my friends who are conservative about this new judge that's supposed to be appointed in the Supreme Court, I believe. And I was making the argument of like this person didn't know how to answer the question about the First Amendment. Like she didn't know all the fundamentals of the First Amendment, and there was other questions about other like very important cases that have happened in law in our country's history. She didn't understand, or she didn't know all the details. I was like, dude, that should be a non-starter. Because in any other industry, right? Like, like I don't want my surgeon, like brain surgeon, not knowing what a pituitary gland is. You know what I mean? He's like, I think I know what it is. It's like, no, bitch, this is your job. You should know, right? And and it's funny. The same thing with like our president. I feel the same way. It's like in any other consequence. Like I was arguing with my dad about this too, because my dad is in the military. I was like, you didn't get elected to your job. He's a computer engineer, right? I said, you earned it, right? You worked up towards it. It's just weird that we do that with our leaders, though. We just like say, you could be a leader. And I'm not even sticking to our presidents currently, like all the presidents. I just kind of thought about it. I was like, it's just weird in general, right? Like, could you imagine in any other context, let's say like owner of a company, hey, I think we should just have a new CEO. I'm gonna let everyone in the studio hire this person by voting them in through a popularity contest. It's super weird, and sometimes, ironically, it still does happen in companies versus merit based stuff. So, in a context of a professional environment, I'm much more like, you should know what you're doing, because when people feel a little bit more like, well, I don't want to like, I want people to not feel upset or get hurt or whatever. I was like, you're not thinking of the big picture though. If they don't produce a good product, we all suffer, right? The whole company struggles, right? And in fact, that's what ended up happening. The company that I worked for, Nexon at the time, because of some management challenges, the company ultimately shut down, right? Case in point. You know what I mean? It's like, who cares if everybody's feelings were hurt? We have to be a little bit more serious. Now, let's be clear too. I'm not also like in these environments like yelling at people, telling people that they're like garbage people or anything like that. I'm just like not letting people get away with stuff that is necessary. And in fact, I always try to teach my students this: is that in the class environment, this place is safe. You guys are totally allowed to suck, totally allowed to fail. You know, absolutely, because I understand it takes time to get better, right? Absolutely. But I also try to prepare you guys. It's like when you get a job, make sure and remember clarity, because clarity will help you have a strong relationship with your job and have a strong relationship with even those who are above you, you know, because you'll have this kind of respect of ability, right? You're qualified and you are justified, you know, and instead of having a lot of these insecurities that drive you to think there's other things that might be going on. I see this a lot in our industry, but also other industries where people who are not necessarily the best at their jobs, they maybe lose their jobs and then they start to point fingers to why this might be the case, why they got fired, why studios aren't hiring them, you know? Like there's this controversy, for instance, that I stay out of online controversies these days because it just doesn't seem like a good use of my time. But my friends were writing me in a group chat we're in. They're like, "Hey, what do you think about this portfolio day stuff? Have you guys seen this? You guys are aware of this?"
I saw it. I saw it going around. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
I've seen some.
controversy.
yeah, right. So I think the TLDR of it is just there is this hashtag of like portfolio day, right? And people who are not as popular or whatever are supposed to hashtag this. I think that's part of the rules. I don't know. I'm not going to get too deep into this. I actually don't know the details of this.
Yeah, I also heard that it's just a day to share portfolios if you're looking for work. I've also heard that if you're an artist looking for work regardless of skill, uh, you're
Yeah,
supposed. I don't
there's
know. I don't participate in any of those artist hashtags, but I definitely follow a lot, so I see
so
I see it talked about.
here's the argument that I've seen though that I'm just like I don't know how to break it to them, you know, which is that established artists are using that same hashtag, and so then what ends like so imagine someone like me using it, right? And it would be like, well, you AJ, you already kind of work. That's totally fair. That's a fair point. You know what I mean? And so this idea of like, hey, you know, you should allow me, AJ, Mr. Anthony Jones, to have this opportunity to have a spotlight on me. You know, this is kind of the premise of some of these arguments. And if for anyone who happens to be listening to this, because these are volts, just remember these words. Just because someone sees your portfolio doesn't mean that now they're going to hire you. You have to remember, you still have to have a good portfolio. It doesn't matter if, let's say, 100,000 new people get to see your work if your portfolio is still average. Do you guys understand what I'm getting at? Like nothing changes. It's not like an employer is like, oh, tight. Like now that I saw this, you know, average or mediocre artist, I'm going to hire them. Nothing actually has changed. The dynamic has not changed, you know? And what I'm afraid of is that people think that because there's not this validated exposure, right? Like this idea of like, hey, you know, all these good artists are taking all this the limelight away from me. You know, this is why I'm having a hard time. You know, no, the reason why these good artists are taking the jobs away from you or these opportunities is because they're good artists. Do you understand? Do you guys understand this premise? And
Yeah.
yeah, and it's.
Work.
Oh, sorry, say again.
That actually reminds me of my work because I'm a graphic designer and we're working with marketing.
Uh-huh.
So you can make a really eye-catching, clickbaity ad and pay for it to spread amongst a lot of people. But if there's nothing behind that ad, if there's no
Yeah, there's no product.
it won't do anything. Just a lot of people will see it, and that's it.
Yeah, there's a popular YouTuber or Instagram influencer, Dan Balzarian, Dan Balzarian, I forget his name. He's known for being like this kind of playboy, having like tons of like supermodels on his arms and stuff like this. But I think the company in which he works for, in which he justifies all this kind of spending and exposure on his social media, has been revealed to actually be a loss of income. He's losing money on it, right? Because like, what is it that he actually sells? You know, Like, cool, man. Like, you got supermodels like hanging out with you, and you like live in these big homes, and you do a luxurious lifestyle. You know what I mean? Like, but what are you actually selling? You know, and it goes to your point. That's exactly right. If there's no product at the end of those adverts, you know, people, or like if there's no problem being solved, right? That's usually what good products do. They solve a problem that people have, right? Then yeah, of course it's not going to do stuff. Like I have a dog, right? And I've been feeding my dog well. I've tried to feed him good foods. I searched one time like natural foods, you know, just like see if I can feed him good. And I get nothing but advertisements from foods that are like organic dog food, like well, freshly prepared, all stuff. That stuff works on me. I've been considering it time and time again because that's satisfying a specific need that I have currently, right? And I find that a lot of times whenever I see these types of things from the art community, that people need to be reminded that just because nobody's seeing your artwork, that's not part of the reason why you're having a hard time getting jobs. It could also just be your artwork, right? Now, don't get me wrong. I still think that sharing your artwork is part of that deal, right? You need to kind of get out there and do social network and all that good stuff, right? It's a really great tool and powerful tool. I highly recommend it. But I also tell people like, it's not as crazy as you might imagine. Hold on just a second. Hold on. Hey, good stuff. Did you eat your bone? Oh, yeah, I found it. All right. Sorry, guys. Yeah, you got to share your work, right? And if you share your work continuously and consistently, right, over long periods of time, not on portfolio day, right? Like if you do it over periods of years versus like one day out of a year, right? That is the better strategy, right? If you're really hoping that one day you're gonna hit the lottery, right? In fact, it doesn't make sense. It's like the day that everyone else is gonna share their work, like even if we kept it just to the no namers, right? The low subscribed artists, you know, many who may deserve it to get that extra attention may still be overwhelmed by those who are also trying to do it, right? Seems kind of counterintuitive to get your works exposed on a day where everyone's trying to share their work at the same time. You know, it seems to make sense to just be sharing your work continuously, you know, instead of waiting for a day where everyone approves. And although that's my opinion, I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea to do this kind of portfolio day, right? I actually think it's totally fine, right? And I totally think that there should be a way for, you know, no name artists, because there's plenty that I know because I do these events a lot and I meet artists that are really good, like really, really good. And they're like, I can't get work. And I say, it's because you don't share your work. Nobody knows about you. But I don't say, oh, you should do it on portfolio day, or oh, you should do that. Like I just say, post literally as often as you possibly can. Try to post like once a week. Try to post twice a week. You know, there's a correlation there. And the people that I've told this to, every single time, they get more work. There was this one artist named Ariel Perez. Do you guys know of him? Well, you're about to. He messaged me like, hey, I have a hard time getting work. And I was like, share your work often. And guess what? He started sharing his work often. He started getting work. He messaged me about a year ago, I think. He's like, you were right. Look how often he shows his work now. He has so many pieces of artwork now. I think when I first talked with him, he had like maybe 10 of them, and they were like posted like months and months apart. You know what I mean? And I was like, it's not a quality. It's just nobody knows about you. Like, I think that's the main reason. You know? And he did, and now he's doing well. At least last time I checked, he was doing well. I'm not sure how he's doing these days. There's another one. A guy I met at Ari, a guy I met at Lightbox last year. Same thing. Didn't post often. Told him post more often. Your work's great. Right? Like, this is the stuff that he showed me at the time. I was like, yeah, this is super good. And if you go look through, like, there's like months between these pieces of artwork, you know? And then if you look at the stuff he does now, it's like weeks. So October 6th was the last one. October 5th. September 23rd. It's a few weeks. Yeah, see? He's posting very often now. You know? And he's getting pretty consistent work. There was another artist too. Same thing. Told him same thing. And then they did. And they got work. But there was a tragic part of what happened with that guy was that he got work during the pandemic. So he came over to the country. And then everyone's like, go back to your countries. The world's on fire. And so the job that he got, because visas were like pretty much turned off, he couldn't stay anymore, which is sucky. That had nothing to do with his work or his ability to share his artwork online. That's something out of his control. It's unfortunate. But what got him there in the first place, that opportunity, even short-lived, was the sharing of the work. And so I think whenever you're thinking about working for clients and working in general, like the opportunities, I always encourage people to think of it really simply, you know, about pushing quality work, clarity of that work, and having a good understanding of your workflow. Those are the only things you really can control. You can't control how certain clients might be a little bit more testy than others. You know, you can't control the industry if it shifts and goes in one direction, right? When you are going in another, you just can only be paying attention and trying to bring value to these industries. Hope that helps answer that question in a more broad way, because like I said, it's not an easy, like, oh yeah, just do this one thing and you'll be fine in all at all circumstances. It really is like a coin toss in a lot of these cases. But I found that those two things to work on is like clarity, and then having control over my workflow is the best strategy in most circumstances that I've been put in. Being very resourceful, kind of like what I was talking with Xander about, right? Earlier in the class. Anyway, any other questions?
Yeah, I've got one regarding speed.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I've noticed that like as I've tried to to increase the effectiveness, I guess, of my workflow, I try to get more speed, and like the key thing has been always like getting stuff right the first time around.
Yeah, sure.
That's been like the thing that's made me draw the fastest. So I was thinking like, of course, like studying helps a ton, because the more you know the shapes that you're drawing, like the higher the chance that you're gonna get them right the first time around, right?
Yeah.
So I was thinking if there was, or if you've figured out or something like a question, sort of to check yourself when you're trying to make that fast decision making, right? So for example, like when I'm practicing figure drawing, I'm always
Uh-huh.
asking myself like, does this flow? are these shapes like flowing with each other? You know, does this have
Sure.
right? So, is there any sort of question like that to self-check yourself when you're trying to make those fast decisions?
Yeah. So the way that I like to answer this question, um, I'll answer it more on a philosophical level, and then I'll give you an answer, because it's better to have the concept of why you have to think of it this way.
Yeah.
So I always ask people like something like, "Do you know how to walk? Like, do you know how to walk?
Of course.
Like, could you walk to the kitchen right now?" Okay, cool.
Sure.
Not right now. I'm just you just hear him get up. I'll be right back, guys. Okay, cool. So you know how to walk to the kitchen. Sweet. When you walk to the kitchen, do you ask yourself a question about how to walk there?
No.
Like, you talk about flow with your figure drawing, right? To help
Right.
you be good at it. But do you do that with walking? Do you like ask yourself these questions to make sure you walk there good? Or do you just
No.
do it?
Right. Just do it.
Okay. This is important to understand because that's what it is for me. Like what you're seeing me do is me walking.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to answer that question literally, right? Am I asking a question? The answer is no.
No, that's why
Right.
I asked like.
Hold on,
like,
I'm not done. I'm not done.
Yeah, yeah, okay,
I'm just giving you a framework of this is the philosophy.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you think of it this way, and your instincts are right, you got to practice, you got to study. Your instincts are right. This is the way to glory, right? But why? Why is this the case? Let's walk it through. Like, why can you walk? What is it about walking that makes it so easy that you don't even have to think about it? What happened?
Did it a lot.
Did it a lot, right? You did it since the day you knew how to walk, which is many years ago, and you've been doing great since. Good job, bro. Right? Like I know this is a thing because I have children and I've seen them learn how to walk. Going from not knowing how to walk to knowing how to walk is a trip. Pun intended. It's like crazy to see like how they just were like klutz. And they still kind of don't know how to walk. Like my son, we were playing some soccer and he kicked the ball over to like this grass area, but there was a sidewalk in between where he was at and where the other area of grass was at. So he had to like run in his cleats from the grass that we were like on the field that we were on originally to this new grass patch. Okay. And I wasn't paying attention to him. Otherwise I would have warned him that cleats are very frictionless when you put it on like anything other than grass. Right? Well, guess what? He learned anyway. Because when he ran full speed, all in, he slipped as soon as he got to the concrete, hurt himself pretty badly. But now he knows. He's learned very, very quickly that that's a thing. Friction, And so then we were in the parking lot, we were putting our cleats on, and he's like, I'm gonna wait till we get to the grass so I don't slip. So that wisdom was immediate. Right. And I said, but listen, if you understand why you slipped, you can put your cleats on now and avoid slipping. And I explained to him, it's like, it's like walking on ice because there's very little, like when you have this, like put your hand on it, like see how it's like, and this is like his regular shoe, like see how it's like really hard to kind of rub through. That's what helps you stay balanced or not slip on regular ground with regular shoes because of the rubber, right? And then I said, now let's look at the cleats and say, see how this is smooth? So that means there's nothing to grab onto. But the reason why they work with grass is because they're like teeth, where rubber actually has the opposite problem. It makes it more slippery, And he's like, oh, okay, I get it. And I was like, so you can put on your cleats now. You just got to like tippy toe or don't run, right? You got to make sure that every foot planted is firm, And so he did. He put on his cleats and he did that. And he was like, oh, okay, I see. Right? Understanding. But he's not gonna always think, why am I putting my feet like this now with the cleats? Like he just knows and he just will start doing it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so the answer to this question is an answer that everybody knows, but nobody does. That's the problem. It's the whole everyone knows how to get in shape. You gotta, move your body and eat right. Nobody does it though. There's nothing else to it. It's not complicated, right? The way to get better at speed is not complicated either, right? You said it. Your intuition was right. You got to study. The more you know, the less you make mistakes, right? And the more you practice it, the more you'll just do it without even thinking about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so here is now an answer that's more of a solution to this problem. Okay?
Yep.
Which is I like to use timers. I use
Yeah.
timers for everything, especially for speed. That's because that's the whole point.
Yeah. Actually,
And-
that's how I managed to bring my time down on my when I did the thumbnails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're already doing it. So
Yeah.
So think about it. So think about it in a different context. So that way you stop getting distracted with these other types of thoughts, right? If I was to tell you how to do push-ups to help strengthen your chest, right? I was like, you got to have strict form. You got to do this. Got to go chest to ground. Try to pause it. There's all sorts of ways to do a push-up, right? And I can show you a good amount. But you're not going to get stronger in your chest if you don't do the push-ups. And at some point, you'll just know that you just got to keep on doing push-ups. There's nothing else to it. There's not more things to all of a sudden increase your strength dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
It's really just, are you doing push-ups? Consecutively throughout the year. That is the best way to think about that, right? And it's the same with getting fast. It's like, are you testing your speed consecutively throughout the year? There's only so many ways to paint a painting, right? In fact, a lot of the ways that I paint a painting are very traditional. They're very old school techniques, like chiaroscuro, like using light and dark. I didn't invent that shit, dude. It's like 1,000-year-old painting technique. Like, why fix something that ain't broke?
Right.
I'm just using digital medium. And that's the part that I think gets people, because they want there to be like a magic thingy. And don't worry, everyone thinks this way. I did too. I just don't anymore. Right? I've come to learn that it's almost always simpler than people anticipate to get good at stuff. Right?
Right.
And it's because of its simplicity and its boringness, right? And because of its tediousness, right? It's tedious to get good. People don't want to believe it. They want to think that there's something else to it, right? But everybody who's really good is in on the same joke. No, it's actually pretty simple.
Yeah.
And what I find myself doing as a mentor in the class is just reminding people how simple it is. Right? Remember when I was doing that little suck diagram?
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's because it's true. Like it's funny when you see it in a visual context of like, yeah, like I'm not good at a thing. I get frustrated and then I stop. Like, wait, that is not going to help me get better.
Right.
Right? Like, of course I should keep doing it. Why was I thinking I should stop in the first place? It's weird. It's like you're like walking towards, let's say you're walking towards a goal, and let's keep this goal relative, like you're walking to a restaurant to go eat, right? And maybe halfway to walking there, you're tired. You're like, oh, I'm tired of walking. I'm gonna head back. You're still hungry. You know what I mean? You didn't solve the hunger problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to walk there. You got to walk all the way there, even if your feet hurt, right? Especially if you're starving, you're gonna have to walk. It's just gonna have to happen. You know, there's like these runners from Kenya who can like run these marathons like nothing. You know, and if you look at like Kenyan lifestyle, like a lot of what they had to do to like get just basic food would be to walk like 10 to 20 miles every day, like out of necessity, not out of convenience for training or anything. It was just like they just did it. When I was in cross country, our coach made us run. He always made us run in like 10 miles away from our school, and we would always run through something called the Mojave Desert, which is just sand, right? And so it was like fucking a nightmare, right?
I bet.
But when we actually went to race like on like actual pavement or actual like tracks, dude, we would destroy these kids. And Barstow also is just in the middle of like the high desert, so it's like extreme weather. It's like super hot, like when these heat waves are hitting, like a lot of that was happening in that area, you know. And so not only were we like used to extreme running conditions, like in the environment, we were also like always up against extreme what you call it, extreme weather conditions too, you know. And it was crazy because we would go to these tracks like in like the OC, because in the time I didn't live there, I live here, like just sunny like beach weather, you know, beautiful weather, and we would just destroy, dude. Like it was like adults going against toddlers, you know. We were like almost a mile ahead of people in some cases, and it's a 3 mile race. Right? We were like destroying these children. They had no chance, you know. And we would do some garbage tactics too. It was great. Like we would do this thing called rabbiting, or there would be a rabbit, and so we would have one person on our team just really run fast because they're super fast, you know. But they weren't the fastest on our team. They would just be fast starter, and they can do it for quite a while. They can run a whole mile at that pace, right? So what we would do is we'll have someone like that be the rabbit, and they would run ahead of us, and we would kind of stay in the middle, and then that person would just be booking it, right? And all the other teams are just like, oh my god, like this is the pace, you know. And so they would try to keep up with this one kid, and then the rest of the actual like athletes, this like the real not athletes, because our friend was also like really good. He just was like really good at like rabbiting. And what happened is these people would try to catch up to this guy, and then they'll start getting exhausted because, you know, they're like running too fast because their ego, right? And then the real runners will come by, and this is how we would like pretty much almost lap people kind of thing, you know. And so like we were like always at an advantage at every level, strategically, you know, athletically. But it goes back to my point of like, you know, we were trained and we were built this way. We would practice and run during the summers, right? We would do track running. We would do 20 miles a day. You know, our coach was always on our diets, making sure that we were eating good and a lot to gain muscle and energy, you know. But there was nothing to it. We just ran and ate well, and we were like CIF champions. You know, we didn't do any other crazy exercises. We didn't do any, like we did like some stretches. We did some like sprints at intervals and some secondary accessory exercises. But the meat of our ability was just these long distance runs, you know. and made us better than every team in all of California. Very simple. And we just did it year round. We didn't wait till school started. We did it during the summer. We did it during school, even when it wasn't track season, you know, year round. And so when we went against these kids who were not training year round, it was like a fucking joke, dude. You know? And I think part of that has just stuck with me. Just that ability to just consistency is king. You know?
Yeah.
Like instead of thinking about how many hours you put in a day in your art, think more about like how many days out of a year did you put into your art? Was it 200? Was it 300? Was it 100? Was it 50? You know? That's more important questions. And you can think the same way with speed. Be like, how many days out of the last quarter did I put into my speed? Right? The last 3 months. Was it 1 day, 2 days, 3 days? And if you really think about that, right? Like if you thought about it right now, you don't have to answer me, but if you just thought about it and give yourself an answer,
Right.
you could probably be like, oh, okay, not a lot. This is
Yeah.
partly why I'm not getting faster, right?
Yeah.
Like it becomes very obvious. It's like, oh wait, there is no magic question. Like it's just, I'm not doing it enough,
Right.
you know? And once you realize that, it's a relief because you realize that it's super simple, you know? But then
Yeah.
now it's just a matter of that willpower, that diligence.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny. A lot of these questions they're like, you know, like you said, they're like everybody knows them, but nobody does them.
Yeah.
And you should think you should know better, but then your brain's like,
Yeah. Yeah, your
you're
insecurities and your ego always gets the best of you. And trust
Yeah.
me, I would like to think that I'm immune to this. No, I was not any better. You know, I just have trained myself to not think this way, but I still do from time to time. It still happens. Trust me, it really does. And I'm like a person that literally like preaches it, you know. And like for instance, I've been learning like 3D and stuff. I'm just like, is there a question? Like the very same way, right?
Yeah.
And then I was thinking about sculpting the other day, and I was like, oh man, you know, like sculpting is this and this, like, you know, and then I was like, you really can't do it in Blender, and I was like already kind of doing the same kind of like putting up these unnecessary criticisms, and then I stumbled upon somebody doing a sculpt in Blender, and I was just like, this motherfucker just answered all my questions and just reminded me that I'm a dumbass. Like I should just practice sculpting in Blender. The reason I'm not good at it is because I'm just not putting the time in. Like that happened to me actually literally 2 days ago, where I was just like, no, I might have to use ZBrush and this and this and this because Blender can't. And then I just literally saw some guy do it, and I was just like, nope, I'm dumb. Like this guy just proved to me that I should be able to do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Everything now.
Yeah, I'm just like, you know, honestly, I think I could probably just stay in Blender. I might not even have to go to 3D Code anymore. I love 3D Code, and I might still use it ultimately because it is a great tool. It just is, you know. But god damn it, dude, Blender's so good. You know, there's just so much you can do.
It's just going places.
Yeah, it's just incredible what you can do with it. And it's like I'm starting to weigh in on the value of learning it. Excuse me. The value of learning it because of how close it is to just having all the answers. Right? All right, here you go. I was looking for the reference. Yeah, so this is the model that I found, right? I found this and I was like, man, this is a really great sculpt because I'll be going more and more stylized, right? I was like, man, I love this guy's sculpt. I think it was this sculpt that I found, right? I was like, oh, this is so cool. This is perfect, you know? And then, you know, I went and looked at the software to see, like, just to see what he was working on. And I was like, wait, Blender? No ZBrush, nothing else? I was like, he made this shit in Blender? And then I scrolled down and I was like, this motherfucker made this shit in Blender. And I was like, wait, what? Hold up. And then I just started watching this and I was like, no way. And I was like, no, he must have like brought it in from here, or maybe he started from a base sculpt. And I was like, oh no, this bitch just straight up from 0 to 100, dude, sculpted this whole thing in Blender. I was like, what about the clothing? The clothing, obviously, he did a marvelous designer, right? Nope, every fucking thing sculpted in Blender. And I was like, oh, okay. So what you're telling me is that if I'm actually a good sculptor, I can sculpt in any goddamn software. Oh, so maybe the problem I'm running into is that I'm a terrible sculptor. You know what I mean? And when I saw this, I spent the whole day in Blender sculpting, and I was like, oh, I'm done, dude. It's totally a skill thing. One of my good buddies, Raph Grissetti, who's a great sculptor, always reminds me. He doesn't remind me deliberately. He reminds me by just constantly publishing insane work at all times, every day. Wait, why am I not following this fool? I thought I was following him. He's like me if I sculpted, where he posts very often. Well, this is not a good example because on Instagram he's like posting constantly. In fact, let's go to his Instagram. Oh, that's really cool. Blanca concept. Actually, I Raf Rossetti Instagram. Yeah, check it out. Like, he just posts so much. Like, sculpts. Wait, did he do this? Or did someone else? I think someone else did this. Oh, yeah. This guy's dope. Anyway. Posts a lot. And he does it all in ZBrush, which is pretty standard. Right? He's a master of ZBrush. But he sculpts and sculpts and sculpts. And he does these like in a day.
Oh,
and it's really good. They're not like kind of like throwaway sculpts, too. They're actually pretty close to finish. You know? And so, yeah, to me, it's like, it's very clear. You know what I mean? Just that consistency. And yeah, so when I was being all hard on myself of like, or I was being stupid to be like, oh yeah, it's definitely tools, man. When I know better. So I'm trying to say, like, even myself, I'm trying to say I'm not even immune to this. That's all I'm getting at. So don't feel bad. Don't be like, oh man, I feel so stupid or something. Like, no, like I do. It happens to me too, man.
That's what I was gonna say. It's like, yeah, that's kind of a relief too. It's like, yeah, it happens still.
Yeah, it happens to the best of us. It just happens less. I catch it sooner. Or I think sometimes people who are just starting out, they can linger on this feeling, these thoughts for like months.
Yeah,
and that's the point where I'm like, that's where it's problematic. For me, like lasts like hours, if not days. And then I get over it because I realize real quickly. And it's because I have that foundation of understanding that it brings me back to reality. But I think it all chalks up to insecurity that drives that, because that's usually what I feel. I feel like insecure about it. I'm like I should be doing better. I should be doing better. Nothing like where it keeps me up at night. Art never really keeps me up at night. But it does, like, I have that thought and then I'm just, I get over it real fast. Other things keep me up at night, like the state of the world. Things I have no control over. I have control over my ability to get better at stuff. Any other questions?
I have one question. How do you find something to get motivation or get you inspired? Where do you find it?
Oh, sure. So this question, again, I'll start off with a philosophical answer, and then I'll give you
Okay.
a direct answer. Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't normally feel motivated or inspired in the way that most people like, or I'm sorry, uninspired or unmotivated. I usually am pretty good about staying motivated and inspired. Um, but I think the reason why is because I don't think about motivation and inspiration the same way as other people. And this is something I try to teach too. It's like, don't think of motivation and inspiration as a driving force. Think of think about stuff like diligence and patience as a better tool. Okay, meaning that like, how do you stay patient? How do you stay diligent? Because patience and diligence has nothing
I
to
know
do
the
with how
first
you.
word, the patient, but the delusion, I cannot even say it. What does it mean?
Yeah, diligence. Diligence is like resilience, or like a manifest. Like to manifest it would be like, to be resilient would be able to like take a punch, right?
Okay,
Like you're
yes.
very resilient if someone
Okay.
can like call you names and it doesn't affect you, right? Or makes fun of you. That means you're very resilient to
Okay.
verbal
So be
abuse.
durable, something like this.
Yeah. So like resilience is the ability to like take punches. Okay.
Okay.
So patience, yeah, you get patience is just to be like waited out, right? Diligence is like, here's an example of it. You don't feel motivated, or you don't like what you're drawing, or someone said something about your art and it's really getting to you. Diligence is to say, regardless of how I feel, I still got to do this art. That's diligence. Another way to think about it is like discipline, right? Like you're letting your feelings not drive the show. I'm still in class today. You can sit on my bed and just wait. I'm almost done. Yeah. All right, come here. I'll help you real quick.
It's a 5 boxes and it's 12,000. 12,000 straws.
5 times 2 is not 12, my love. Get out of here.
No, it's 2.
Yeah, it's 2,000.
Yeah, 5
Here,
times
hold on. Let's do it this way. Let's think of it like this.
plus 4.
Hold on. You're wrong. So let me stop you before you get there. Hold on.
5, 6.
What is 2 times 2,000?
2 times 2. So 2 go 2. So 2, 4.
4 or what?
4,000.
4,000. Okay. So what's 5 times 2,000?
Huh?
What's 5 times 2,000?
5 times 2,000.
Okay.
So 5 groups of 2. 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I only have 5 groups. So I have 5 groups.
Well, once you figure this out, that's the right
4,
answer.
4,
Yeah.
8, 9, 10.
And you said it's 12,000? Do you see how it's wrong? Now get your booty out of here before I slap you. Hey, son. Love you. So yeah, do you understand the diligence part though now? You understand what I mean by this?
Yes.
Be diligent. Because motivation, the idea of motivation, right, or even inspiration, is to kind of feel good about it, right? Like, I'm like excited to go, like do this, or
Yes.
like I can't wait to do this thing. Like I want to keep
It's
going.
blended to the good feelings.
Yeah, and I'm saying that's not always going to happen. In fact, most of the time it doesn't happen.
Right.
You know? And so to like be like, how do I stay motivated, right? Is a trap is what I'm getting at, right? Because you know, when I go to the gym, there's some workouts that are just hard, you know. When I like try to like be restrictive on my diet so I can have a healthier balance of what I eat, right? Like
Right.
it's a challenge. It's hard. Sometimes I don't want to, you know. but it's that foresight. It's that thinking ahead, knowing that it's what's best for you now, right? Because in the future, you're going to think yourself, right? Like I remember I had a friend, I was telling him you shouldn't eat so much meat because it's really sketch, you know, to eat that much meat. And he's like, look, man, you eat what you want to eat. I'll eat what I want to eat. I'll live my life happy eating the things I like. Right. And I was like, yeah, well, you say that now because you don't feel any ailment. And he's like, nah, man, like even when I'm like, if I die like 10 years younger, it's fine. I'll be happy knowing that I did what I wanted to do. You know, that's what he told me. Right. And I was like, everyone's super brave when they're not faced with any real danger, you know? So a year later, he calls me. He's like, hey, man, like, I need some advice on like diet and food. And I was like, what? Why? What happened? He's like, yeah, I'm really nervous. I've been having these stomach problems and I had to get a colonoscopy. And my doctor said my blood pressure is super high. Like, this is a year later. Not like when he's like really old, like he said he was going to be, you know? And he's like, no, I think my doctor says my diet's like has too much meat in it. And I was like, well, in my mind, I was like, told you, right? But as a friend, I just was like, I kept it to myself, you know? And I was like, yeah, man, let's do it. This is what I would do. This is how in the morning I would do this, you know, and then I told him, right? Because everyone's like, yeah, everyone's YOLO until the day of where your life is challenged, right?
So we need to think about the bigger picture.
Yeah, think of the bigger picture. That's what helps with diligence, and that's what helps with patience. Patience is driven by that bigger picture. Diligence allows you to follow through that patience, right?
Right.
Because being patient is one thing, like just waiting in a line, yeah, right? Or waiting years to get good. That's the thing. That's fine, right? But you have to go day by day, living with the challenges of what that means, right?
Right.
And that's what diligence does. And so now to answer your question more directly, right? Because I told you this is the philosophy. That was the philosophy of it, which I think you understand, right? Which is great.
Yes, I understand.
So now let me give you an answer now. So now that you know, I'm not really talking about motivation now. I'm talking about diligence and patience. This is a tool to use. Stop thinking about quality. Start thinking about quantity. So instead of thinking, oh man, this one drawing has to be good and I have to feel good about it, right?
Okay.
Be like, I have to do 10 drawings regardless of how good or bad they are. Just do 10 drawings. That is my challenge for today. They can be sketches, they can be whatever, like, but it's just like, I got to do 10. That's the goal. It's a quantity, it's a number of things, right? Move the dial. It's like, okay, I need to get better at anatomy. All right, I need to do 2 pages of anatomy studies every day. Should I have any?
Sometimes the great drawing will come out.
Yeah, sometimes it comes and sometimes it doesn't. But the point is, like, you're not looking for it. You're looking for the growth.
Okay.
And a good way to measure the growth is to go month by month, right? So look at a sketch that you did at the beginning of the month and then look at a sketch that you did at the end of the month. And you will almost always see a lot of increased ability, you know? There's this great thing that this guy said, this motivational speaker said that I really agree with. He said, when people why people fail at like working out and eating right is because they check the scale and look in the mirror every day. And he says, because when you do that, it's like you go to the gym, you work out hard, and then you go look in the scale and you look in the mirror and nothing has changed. Right? He says it's really demoralizing. And you do that the next day, it feels the same. You feel like nothing has really changed. You go weeks, checking every day, you don't see any significant difference. He's like, but there is a difference. You just don't see it in that short amount of time. You have to spread the time out.
I can understand it. This is like the child growth, the height. This is the process. So every day the child grows very, very small. But about the year or two, they're getting pretty big.
Yeah. And so it's the same principle idea I'm trying to get at to you. Okay? That
I think I understand.
Yeah, so and like I told you, the practical or the tool to use to help you, like, quote unquote, be motivated is less about motivation, more about accomplishing a task, right? Like 100 drawings, 20 drawings, 30 drawings. Like, you give yourself a quantity to achieve rather than a quality to have, you know? And then gauge quality on a monthly basis versus on a daily basis, right?
Right.
That's a much more healthy relationship with your artwork.
Give myself a time.
Yeah, give yourself some time before you give yourself a hard time. You know, like, don't give yourself a hard. Like, you literally just like did like these this assignment in these like day and a half, these 2 days, right?
Right.
Like, what did you expect was going to happen? Like, you're going to be like amazingly now you're going to get a job? Like, no, it's going to take time. If you were to ask me, did you improve? Absolutely. Did you ask me, did you learn something? Absolutely. Right.
Right.
And that's what's important. You're adding wisdom to your ability. That's the skill you want.
Yes.
Nobody can just get that. You have to earn it.
That's why I'm here.
And that's why you're here. You're doing great. Everyone here is doing great. I find that people are hard on themselves more than anybody else. So anyway, I'm going to go walk my dog, and I'm going to end the class here. Great final question. Great questions in general. And great work, everybody. Keep up the motivation with each other. You know, talk with one another, you know, engage with one another, but ultimately stay diligent and be patient. And I'll talk to you guys next class. And like I said, these classes will be meeting on Tuesdays instead of Wednesdays because of the double booking on my behalf. So I'll talk to you guys.
This is the tournament change, right?
Huh? Yeah, it's a permanent change. Yeah, because
Okay.
I have something every Wednesday as well, and there's no way I can go around it. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys. I'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers, friends, and have a great weekend. And bye.
You too, man.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it. Please subscribe to watch more in the future. If you like the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. If you like this content, you can go to my website, robotpencil.net, where you can find mentorships, tutorials, and a Patreon to get more exclusive content. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in my next videos.